Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Go ahead.
I'm vindicated. Screw you guys. Screw you guys. You made me doubt myself because I have news for you. You hear it there correctly. Sam Bowie is how you pronounce it. Even though it is spelled like David Bowie, B-O-W-I-E, Sam Bowie is how you pronounce it. And I have to tell you, Connor Rogers, because there's very little in this world Jay Croucher knows. Like, he barely remembers the names of his kids. He doesn't know his wife's birthday. He is a savant in literally only two things, sports betting and obscure NBA players. And so when he's sitting there going like, it's Sam Bowie, I'm like, it's probably been a decade since I've said the name Sam Bowie out loud.
That's fair.
And so I'm on live TV, and Jay, who literally, this is like one of his two areas of expertise.
I'm the Kevin Martin guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And so I'm just like, God, did I get this wrong? Am I just misremembering
We
it?
did have you in a pretzel.
Yeah, and then
which was kind of the point.
And then we got up the show, and Big Show, our show researcher, was like, you were right. It's Sam Bowie. And I'm like, that's what I thought. And you just see it there. If you go to YouTube highlights and you look up Sam Bowie highlights, he drinks for free.
Sam Bowie drinks free.
Because there's at least one guy on this desk that knows how to pronounce his last name.
Okay, listen.
You were the only person alive when he was drafted, to be fair.
Yeah.
Wow.
To be fair.
Factually correct.
There is a culture crisis in America where people are reinventing the pronunciations of their last name to defy linguistic convention.
Yeah.
Devin Achan had one good game against the Broncos last year and changed the pronunciation of his name after the game.
Right.
He was Achan until then.
And David Achan, and then it became Achan.
What are people doing? The English language is a beautiful language that has conventions, and everyone. Sam Bowie, what? Where are the letters?
It's always been Sam Bowie.
I know, but where are the letters? Why don't we just, like, my name's Croucher, I'll just call myself Brady. Like, why don't I just call myself Brady? What's the difference? What's the difference?
I think there's a significant difference. Jay Croucher? Is that what we call you?
Croucher?
The
French pronunciation?
The silent C.
Yeah.
This
Jay
is
Croucher.
Bowie?
But that's how it's always been. Maybe David Bowie is the one that's mispronouncing it. I think it's the O. There's.
But there's one of them.
No, but I understand. But there's different, donut and the O has different pronunciations, right? Different levels of pronunciation.
I don't know about donut.
No, but I'm just saying, because it could be do
Donut
not.
would work in my favor.
Do not or donut. Like D-O-N-U-T is do not or donut, right?
Yes.
Depending on
in Bowie it's followed by a consonant, so it's O, Bowie. That's just the name.
Or Bowie.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
The point of the matter, don't try to turn this around. You guys are wrong and I am right. I have been vindicated by America, by the thesaurus, by the official show researcher. Screw you guys. I'm out of here.
It was a much needed win for you, honestly. So against the English language. So this is. I was happy. Honestly, I was happy for you.
That's fair.
I was really happy for you. I was rooting for the underdog in this scenario.
Listen, I appreciate that. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Prince.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on with this jacket here.
Well, people forget I'm the only one on this desk.
Purple Rain?
I'm the only one on this desk that actually dresses themselves, believe it or not. I don't just walk into work and have people go, okay, this is what you need to put on. Only put this on.
Yeah, I mean, you're about ready to start belting out "What's New Pussycat." It's a Tom Jones reference, by the way.
Does he drafted in '84 alongside Sam Bowie and Michael Jordan?
No, he's an old school singer. Look him up though. Tom Jones is one of the great.
I'm familiar with his work.
Yeah, Tom Jones is one of the great entertainers of all time.
Okay.
And this is what this looks like.
I'll take your word for
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
It's waiver wire day.
When you're done with Sam Bowie highlights,
which we open the show.
Yeah,
with.
exactly.
Nicely done.
Go look for some Tom Jones.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, exactly.
What are we doing? What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. We can figure out any kind of pronunciation. All right.
It's waiver wire day. We'll help you as much as we can, whatever scraps are left out there on the waivers. We got Monday Night Football takeaways. Dolphins get a much-needed win over the Rams. And, of course, we end the show with our Back to the Futures bets. But before we do any of that, let's jump into the Roto World player news. And we do have some news off the top of this show here, guys. As the Bears fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, Thomas Brown will be the interim offensive coordinator, Waldre.
Shane Waldron.
So Thomas Brown was their offensive passing coordinator and was the Panthers' offensive coordinator last season, which is probably not something he wants on his resume anymore. But it feels like anything would be an upgrade over Waldron.
It just look. You never
He had
want
to
to
make a change.
You don't want to. You never want to root for someone to be fired, and you never want to celebrate somebody losing their job. Like in all seriousness, right? I've never met Shane Waldron, but I assume he's got a family. He's nice. Like this is tough. It's tough on the family and the kids, everything. Like having said that, Connor, you're right. It just didn't seem to work out. And when you have a first-round prized quarterback like Caleb Williams, like there's nothing more important than that hire. I'm not trying to make this all Commanders as I always try to do, but honestly, no, seriously, think about how important Cliff Kingsbury has been to the development of Jaden Daniels. Think about Sean Payton and Bo Nix, honestly. Bo Nix has been a lot better than anyone expected him to be.
Been better than Caleb Williams.
Right, exactly. And so it didn't seem like it was working out here for Shane Waldron and the Bears, and just they couldn't seem to get on the same page. Since their Week 7 bye, the Bears are last in offensive points per game, passing yards per game, yards per play. Pick a category. They were bad in it offensively. Caleb Williams seems to have regressed, Connor, from his college tape as well.
He's a mess. I mean, it's everything. Mechanically, he's not seeing the field. He's not accurate. And it just feels like a guy that is now scared to make a mistake, and he's not pushing the ball. Like we saw in that stretch, as you see here, just fascinating numbers, Jay. Week 4 to 6, we started to talk about Caleb Williams making a push for Offensive Rookie of the Year because of the offensive output. I mean, their offensive points per game during that stretch was over 31, and now it's regressed back down to a single-digit number at 9.
Yeah, I mean, it feels so long ago that they were in London, absolutely cooking the Jags, and Caleb Williams looked like a Patrick Mahomes clone. I think the thing is you have the number 1 pick in the draft, you have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen. You can't have the worst offense in the league, and that's what it's looking like. That performance against the Patriots was the most pitiful performance I think that any team's had this year. So I think change clearly needed to be made. They've got the O-line has some issues, but it's not. I don't think the O-line is weak enough to be able to justify this. It just seems like there's no plan.
It doesn't, and you have to wonder, is this sort of? I feel like this is a little bit like, Matt Eberflus trying to sort of save his job too. Feels like they're going to have to do a complete reset in Chicago in the offseason. I don't know.
Ready to close the book on Flus, I think. I think it's time.
I mean, you have an asset here in Caleb Williams that you can't take a risk like this anymore. It was kind of surprising he had the chance to continue on because it was a real reset when they drafted Caleb number 1 overall.
Yeah. So many coaches that get fired, the argument is like, hey, well, I didn't have a quarterback. Give me a quarterback. I remember one time talking to Herm Edwards when we were working at ESPN. He talked about this. He goes, the quarterback's everything. He goes, listen, I was in Kansas City. I had Tyler Thigpen. I was winning games with Tyler Thigpen. And Herm in his Herm way doing it. It's like it makes a difference. It makes a difference. It's one of the reasons why I'm so anti-Mike McCarthy, because he had peak Aaron Rodgers and he's had Dak Prescott.
You and Micah Parsons taking a stand?
Honestly, yes. I don't agree with how Micah handled that situation.
Terrible.
But I have long said that I believe as a head coach, Mike McCarthy has done less with more talent than any head coach of his stature.
Right.
Would be my argument. But anyway, to make this about Eberflus, right? He had Justin Fields. It's not like Justin Fields who was handled Justin Fields went top 12 overall. He was a star at Ohio State, and they couldn't make Justin Fields work. And by the way, Mike Tomlin did, and Arthur Smith did.
He's an average quarterback who's fine.
He's certainly better in Pittsburgh than he was in Chicago. And the Steelers were winning. Now they've won a couple with Russell Wilson, but at the time they made the change, a lot of people were like, "Whoa, you're winning with Justin. Why are you?"
It was a surprise.
It was a surprise, and so my point is that Eberflus has now had 2 top 12 drafted quarterbacks, and you don't often get those kind of shots in the NFL. Shane Waldron takes the fall here, but just feels like it's just kind of like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic sort of thing until the offseason.
Agreed.
Fantasy takeaway, I don't know that there's any here. I don't think there's anything. I think what we said yesterday remains the same. I'll just say this. which is that DeAndre Swift you can start, and the rest of it until you see some sort of production on the field. I just don't know that you can trust any of those guys, and that includes DJ Moore.
Yeah, agreed. At least now there's a bit more variance, a bit more upside. Like if you have DJ Moore on your team, I think you're happy now, just because there's going to be something new and different. So just anything that's different from the current status quo is beneficial.
And maybe Rome Odunze gets going. I mean, we see like sort of rookie wide receivers in the second half of the year, and we know Odunze's a talented player.
And you want to see what you have in him. Maybe you start to kind of change around the reps a little bit. It's not like Keenan Allen's going to be there forever. So maybe that is something that will help.
Trade did not work out for Keenan Allen.
No, it didn't. And I believe it was for a fourth. But by the way, while it didn't work out, still more productive than Jonathan Mingo.
That's right.
Jonathan Mingo. I saw some, I think it might have been NFL IG memes or whatever. Like that account just never misses. I think it was them. I don't know who had this, but it was just very funny where they're like, DeAndre Hopkins, touchdown in his first game, right? Amari Cooper, touchdown in his first game. Mike Williams, touchdown in his first game. Jonathan Mingo, inactive in his first game.
Bizarre trade.
It's very strange. Speaking of those wide receivers, let's start waiver wired, and of course the notable wide receivers and tight ends on a bye week for Week 11. This is a tough one, guys. Malik Neighbors, Mike Evans trying to get healthy. He'll have a bye week to do exactly that. Marvin Harrison Jr. coming off a good week against the Jets. He's now on a bye. Wan'Dale Robinson, a bit of a PPR agent. He's on the bye as well. Xavier Legette, Trey McBride, who's been phenomenal as of recent, as well as Cade Otton. So two huge tight end names there, Matthew, on a bye this week. It's going to have people scrambling.
Theo Johnson. And Jatavian Sanders, who's had a couple moments. My guy Jalen Coker. Yeah. I'm in a league where I need Jalen Coker. Us cokeheads got to stick together. Anyway, so
that's what they often say.
If you need some wide receiver help or pass catcher help, we are here. And where else would you go but Cleveland?
Right. Start with the Browns, because we got two names from the Browns here.
This is where we're
Jerry
at.
Jeudy's the main one. He's 55% available against the Saints, but also Elijah Moore is 92% available. While the production wasn't there the last time they played, the targets have been coming to Elijah Moore as well. So with Jameis, this offense is going to throw.
They certainly are, especially when you think about this week's game on the road at New Orleans, the Saints defense that just hasn't been there all season long and no longer has Marshawn Lattimore. In the two games that Jerry Jeudy has played with Jameis Winston, he's got a 22% target share. He's averaged over 13 fantasy points per game. You see it there on your screen, 13.6. Jameis is going to throw at least 8 targets and 70 receiving yards in both games, including 40% of the Browns' end zone targets. Jerry Jeudy never been a big touchdown scorer throughout his career, but under Jameis, they've actually been looking for him in close. I mentioned the Saints defense. They're top 10 in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing wide receivers. So I think Jerry Jeudy is a viable streamer this week, Connor. And also, if you're hurting a little bit, you certainly feel better about this passing offense under Jameis Winston.
Yeah, you absolutely do. All right, the Chargers wide receiver Quentin Johnston, 59% available. Much better sophomore season for QJ here, Jay. He's got the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, and I know he didn't throw as much last week, but before that, Justin Herbert was really getting the pass game going here.
He was, and I think that in a game that's more likely to be a shootout against the Titans, it was very clear that they were going to win that game. They got up early. They didn't have to throw in the second half as much, but now you get a Bengals defense that has been flammable, and Quentin Johnston, every week there is a solid chance that he's going to be Justin Herbert's number one option. Now, the good thing is he keeps scoring touchdowns. The bad thing is that he only had 2 targets last week. So it's kind of weird, but I know he's a wide receiver. I'd kind of think of him as almost a touchdown-dependent tight end type of player in Quentin Johnston. Yeah. But again, with Herbert playing better, I think that he's worth a flyer in deeper leagues.
Yeah, they just didn't need to throw that much, against the Titans last week. But, they play Cincinnati this week, then they're playing Baltimore, then they're at Atlanta, then they're at Kansas City. Those are 4 games in which I don't think they're going to be able to grind out wins, especially this week against the Bengals, who allow the 7th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Quentin Johnston has an 18.7% target share. So in his 6 healthy games so far this season, and you mentioned the touchdowns he's scored in 4 of the last 5 games, it does seem like Herbert is throwing a little bit more. This offense looks a little more functional. Quentin Johnston, who does seem to be, for whatever reason, coverage breakdowns always seem to happen around him.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
He's just standing out there waiting for the ball.
He's not a small guy. I don't know why they're ignoring him, but whatever. It seems to be working. And again, it's not an explosive offense, but Herbert is a very good quarterback. and they're going to throw some. And because the effectiveness of the run game is so good, that's been opening up stuff, and you see some guys getting single coverage. And so it's really just QJ and Ladd McConkey in that offense.
Yep.
You know, I know you're getting a little bit of Josh Palmer, but it really feels like these are the two guys that are the main targets for Herbert.
Do you think he's made material improvements, Quentin Johnston, this season, or is he just getting used a little bit more?
No, I think his confidence has changed around Harbaugh. I really think there's a lot of players there that have struggled as young players that have turned things around. But I do agree that he's not featured in the offense, which is hard to buy into the sustainability. Like, he needs to catch that touchdown. Like you said, while you watch McConkey, it's 8 targets of different routes in the short intermediate area.
McConkey only caught 2 passes that game either. Like,
right.
They
They didn't throw that game at all.
They ran. Dobbins and Gus Edwards just ran all over.
Yeah,
them.
Gus had even 10 carries in that game. So
yeah.
it's very back to Harbaugh ball, run heavy.
Yeah.
Harbaugh.
Hardball.
Yes.
But
not to be confused again with the excellent 2001 Keanu Reeves film, Hardball, that I keep bringing up.
Yes, definitely not to be confused. Not to be confused with that. The other thing is, look, Jim Harbaugh is probably crazy, definitely crazy, but the man can coach. Like, give the man his.
All he does is win.
Like, that's 1,000%. Like, he coaches his players up. So, you know, I'm not surprised that Quentin and a lot of his teammates, obviously, you know, have been coached up and have more confidence under Harbaugh.
Yep.
All right, Christian Watson, next up on the list here, guys. 58% available. Packers, Bears week here. Things have not been pretty for Chicago, as much as they've been good against the pass. I'll give them that. But the reality is here, Matthew, Watson is such a boom or bust player in this Packers offense. But at this point, people might be desperate for a boom week.
Yeah, and hopefully Watson's a little bit healthier out of the bye. Hopefully Jordan Love is a little bit healthier out of the bye. In his last 2 games, he's gotten 13 targets, 20% target share, and that compares with the 10% target share he was getting in the first 5 games of the season. So he's becoming more a part of this offense, more of the Christian Watson that we saw last year that we sort of expected as well. It is worth noting that the Bears, for as good as their defense is, they do allow the 5th most receptions per game on deep passes, which is obviously a big part of Christian Watson's game. So, again, you don't love the matchup. It's on the road at Chicago, but Packers have had 2 weeks to prepare for this matchup with Chicago. So Christian Watson comes in at number 3 on our list. It's a little bit of a weak list this week.
Yeah, it is. Rookie Pearsall, 63% available. Jay caught the big touchdown, his first touchdown of his career. They're playing a Seattle team that they get really pass-happy. Maybe we'll see a pass-happy game script in this one.
Yeah, it seems like the learning curve he's conquered pretty quickly in this offense. He looks comfortable, he's integrated, he's playing the snaps that he needs to. And I mentioned this yesterday. I would think about Juwan Jennings now as Brandon Ayuk, and I think about Ricky Pearsall as what Juwan Jennings was.
Yep.
And against this Seattle defense that then we came into the season thinking this might be a frisky defense, Mike McDonald as the defensive guru, but they just haven't been very good. And they give up a ton of fantasy value to wide receivers. They just cut Terrell Dodson as their leading tackler and was really solid on Buffalo last year. So it's just the defense isn't in a great spot. And I think that Pearsall, certainly there's a chance. Look, with Pearsall, he's probably going to be like 4 for 47 most weeks, but has a chance to get into the end zone in this offense.
Yeah, and by the way the season's going, 4 for 47 is nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I could have used 4 for 47 last night in a couple of leagues.
Our next wide receiver, DeMario Pop Douglas against the Rams. He's 74% available. Matthew, when Douglas has gotten to play with Drake Maye, he's seen the ball come his way more often.
21% target share in all 3 starts that Drake Maye has made. And he's averaging 13.6 points per game in those games. He's averaging almost 6 receptions per game. Pop Douglas is a nice player. Now, it's hard to buy into this Patriots offense just overall, but and it does seem like every time we get in on a Patriots player, like we were in on, like I'll own it. We were in on Hunter Henry last week, and you know
they let you down.
Austin Hooper. So, but I do feel like again we're 5th on the list. We're down here, but it's not an offense that's going to score a ton of points, and there's a little bit of an inconsistency. But if I had to pick a wide receiver on the Patriots, I think DeMario Douglas is the clear guy.
All right, let's take a look at some deep league wide receiver waiver targets here.
I mean, 4 for 50 last week on 5 targets for Pop Douglas.
If you can find 9 to 10 points right, you might be looking for 9 to 10 points right now through some of these bye weeks.
Yeah.
Adonai Mitchell against the Jets, as well as Alec Pierce, some kind of boom or bust plays. Mike Williams caught that game-winning touchdown in his Steelers debut. Good for Mike Williams. Elijah Moore, we brought it up when we talked about Jerry Jeudy. Elijah Moore, the targets have been there even when the production isn't. Curtis Samuel against the Chiefs. We know what the Bills-Chiefs script can turn into, Matthew.
Yeah, and Keen Coleman, as you mentioned, he's already been ruled out, and we don't know the health of Amari Cooper. He might be there.
Dalton Kincaid's banged up,
Dalton
too.
Kincaid is
There's
banged
a lot
up
of
as well.
injuries for
So
the
the middle of
Bills.
the field there for the Bills. 23% target share for Kurt Samuel last week. That was a season high. I also want to go back to Adonai Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell was my desperation play on fantasy football pregame. Had a nice game. The argument for Mitchell, and I think to an extent Pierce as well, but the argument for Mitchell was this is somebody that was earning targets at a high rate. His targets per route run number was really, really good. The problem was he just wasn't running a ton of routes because he just wasn't on the field very much. But with Michael Pittman out last week, he got a lot of run and was able to, once again, earn targets at a decent rate. So I think it's a little bit Michael Pittman dependent, but they're going back to Joe Flacco, comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco. And so, they're gonna chuck it, and you have confidence somewhat in this passing game. We'll see if Pittman gets back, but I do think that, especially as it looks like this isn't the Colts' year, they got a very tough matchup this week as well, and just feels like if they lose on the road to the Jets this week,
It's time to look at the young players,
Yeah.
like a Mitchell.
yes, exactly.
Maybe go back to Richardson.
And you know who they play after the Jets is the Detroit Lions, who might be the best team in football. So
Right.
if they lose to the Jets, there's a very good chance they're 4-8, playoffs
over.
go on. At that point, I guess the problem is with Adonai Mitchell in a way is that the way that he gets more run if they're in kind of rebuilding mode, then Anthony Richardson is probably coming back.
Right,
in,
and he's
so
not
that's
hurts
just
his
not
right.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a zero-sum game
Yeah.
in a way.
Well, that's why he's on our deep league ads
Exactly.
list.
Yeah, he's worth a flyer. Upside.
We did mention Mike Williams there. He caught the touchdown on a play. It was, almost surprising to see him in there. Great Instagram post from Mike Williams. Thankful, hashtag.
Whole lot of.
A whole lot of. I just
we
love
back.
the hashtag red line.
Hashtag
It's a
red
little
line.
dig at Aaron Rodgers, who completely threw Mike Williams under the bus.
So good.
Before trading him off to a team that's got a chance to go to the playoffs, away
Yes.
from his team that.
Yeah,
well,
Mike
he
Williams
doesn't.
probably showed up with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Oh, 1,000. Yeah, there was on the interception. There was that
that
post-game
line.
press conference. There, and Rodgers was just like, receiver
He
needs
didn't
to be
stay on the red line.
Yep. A lot of
So
references to the red line. I don't
Well,
know.
the
but-
Jets are 3-7, and the Steelers are 7-2.
To be fair, Mike Williams didn't help along the
Sure,
way.
that's fair.
He was really bad with the Jets,
that's
but I'm happy that he had his moment with the Steelers.
Hey,
So.
it was a great throw, great catch.
Yep.
Really good
Cost
throw
my
by
Commanders
Russ.
the game. What are you
All
gonna
right,
do?
let's get into the running backs. Here's the notable running backs on the bye for Week 11. Another tough list here. Chuba Hubbard and James Conner have been absolute workhorses this season, Matthew. Rashad White and Bucky Irving.
Yeah.
Kind of splitting carries. Bucky's been more productive, and Tyrone Tracy is probably keeping some teams in the playoff hunt right now in fantasy. So,
Right.
including me.
Our guy Tyrone Tracy, for sure. So a lot of big name running backs on buys this week. So we start with Tyjae Spears.
Yes,
who,
54%
came back
available.
last week for the Titans. Where he got 10 touches. He had over 50 total yards. He's going to be part of this passing game. 13% target share in his first game back last week, and played 47% of the snaps, which is only 3 fewer than Tony Pollard. They're home to Minnesota this week, then at Houston, at Washington, home to Jacksonville. So a decent schedule coming up for Tyjae Spears, who's available in 54% of Yahoo leagues.
How about Audric Estime making our running back?
Your
He's
man,
your
Connor.
boy. You should be talking about
The
this.
ti-
We're not going
the-
to talk about
the time
Estime.
has come.
Yes.
We said you'd have to be patient.
Yes.
We even said maybe it won't be this year. But it turns out it will be. Audric Estime, 14 carries, 53 yards. Sean Payton said Estime will continue to get more reps, Matthew. I think Estime time is here in the Denver backfield.
There were 17 running back carries for the Broncos in Week 10. Audric Estime got 14 of them. This is somebody who had 15 total carries entering Week 10. Now he spent some time on IR. But as you mentioned, Peyton says Estime is going to continue to get more reps. And for those that don't listen to the, what is it, Pro Football Exchange, the Draft Exchange? What the hell is your name?
NFL Stock Exchange.
NFL Stock. I don't know. It's a terrible name. It's a popular podcast with a terrible name.
What was it? Was it the Bets Pod? The Mets Pod?
I don't know what it is. The Jets. By the way, also, you need a scorecard to keep track of how many effing podcasts Connor Rogers does. But all right, so the one he does with Trevor is called the NFL Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Nailed
it.
Audric Estime has been kind of the
Bowie.
poster child of Estime? Is it Audric Estime?
As a bit, Audric Estime.
Yes. Underestimate him at your own peril.
There you go, Jay. Beautiful. Well done.
Yeah.
Estime was such a funny prospect because it was like nobody knew about him.
Yeah.
Then everybody ranked him way too high. And then he ended up getting drafted right where you'd all expect.
Okay.
But it's time for Audric Estime. Power runner, Sean Payton kind of guy. And Jay, it just feels like this offense, as much as Bo Nix has been better, they're going to have a running back that really matters in fantasy just because of the volume.
Yep. And I think there were two big red flags about the Broncos' backfield coming into the season. And one was that we didn't know who was going to get the work. And secondly, we thought the team was going to be bad and they just wouldn't be in run scripts. Well, it turns out they're actually fine. This is a solid team. They just played the Chiefs effectively to a draw in Arrowhead. And there was nothing really
They should have won that game.
There was nothing really fluky about it either. They just played them to a draw and should have won if they didn't get the field goal blocked at the end. So I think they are going to be in enough run scripts. And if Estime, if he has, and we know Sean Payton, he kind of messes around with backfields, then finds his favorites, and if Estime has become his favorite, then he's going to be startable every week.
The Broncos, Sean Payton has always used multiple running backs when he did in New Orleans. He's done it in Denver as well. But so I wouldn't panic too much on Javonte Williams. I mean, listen, wherever you drafted him, his value is lower, certainly because Estime is going to get more reps as well, and maybe Jaleel McLaughlin is the odd man out. I mean, Williams just did nothing, and I don't know if that was a game script thing or just Estime was running hot, or I don't know, but it is clear that, do not underestimate Audric Estime.
Yeah, that's fine. You can run with it if you want.
Yeah, I might rip it off. We'll see. I'm workshopping it. I'm gonna see.
You got a couple more in the tank for next time?
Okay. We'll see if if people react to it. You know, if they like it, I'll keep doing it. If they don't,
if
they don't like it, then it was Jay's bit.
Yeah, just drop it on FNIA. See what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's anything with Estime.
Well, you can think of that while we look at the insurance running backs.
Like Maye not. I don't know. There's something there.
Sure, I'll keep recycled 4 out of 10.
And note the header of this. This is not, deep league savior week kind of guys. These are insurance running backs. Of course, Zach Charbonnet, one of the best insurance running back options across fantasy. Braelon Allen, Tyler Allgeier, Ray Davis, Trey Benson, who looked good with the work he got against the Jets, and Cam Akers, who just somehow always ends up back on the Vikings.
We're entering week 11. We're down in the home stretch towards the playoffs, and especially for teams that look like that you feel like you're going to be playing in the postseason, it's time to start solidifying your roster and start thinking about, like, hey, if I were to lose this guy, I want to make sure that I have a plan. Because, again, it's been a crazy injury year for football.
Waiver wire to quarterbacks, Jay, yesterday, and I agree with this point. You called Russell Wilson a bit of a mirage, but maybe he's got one more Houdini act in him this week because he's got the Ravens' pass defense.
Yep, the Ravens' defense, they are the ultimate pass funnel. You cannot run on the Ravens whatsoever, but you can pass on them, as Joe Burrow repeatedly has shown. Now, Russell Wilson isn't Joe Burrow, but I think he will have some favorable matchups here. I still keep waiting for the Ravens' defense to get better. Like, there's so much overlap with the personnel of last year. It doesn't make sense that they're this bad, and so it's still, it just makes me a little bit nervous, Russell Wilson starting against the Baltimore Ravens with his relative lack of weapons. But I think until the Ravens pass D shows that it's fixed, that opposing quarterbacks who are competent, and Russell Wilson, even though I don't think he's elite, I think he's very competent, he will be startable.
I know, and it's so funny because it's like, we talked yesterday about, it's the mirage. It's like a mirage. Like, he's not playing well.
It hasn't looked pretty.
No.
And by the way, in any of these games.
He's been, he has not been good.
But fantasy relevant.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets game, he's getting all the bounces. And
he just lobbed the ball as high as he could in the air and said George Pickens is going to find this punt.
Going
and he did.
14 for 28 against the Commanders is not
That's a big red flag.
Yes.
With no Marshawn Lattimore, by the way.
Correct. So. Having said that, though, to your point, if you need a quarterback and, it's a good matchup here, quarterbacks that face the Ravens this year are averaging 22 fantasy points per game. That's second most in the NFL. And certainly Russell's confidence is at a Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's confidence is at an all-time high.
The thing is with him, I actually believe he would tell someone that.
Yeah.
It's actually Roussel, but everybody calls me Russ. That's the problem with that joke is that it's too on point.
It's too on point. He would.
All right, our next quarterback
is
Bo Nix.
Got to be unlimited.
Oh man, nightmares.
Unlimited.
Bo Nix against the Falcons, 67% available. Jay, Bo Nix.
The unlimited character didn't really take off. I think the way that.
No, Let's Ride had better shelf life.
Yeah, Let's Ride.
Well, and then we saw that ended.
And what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Steal up. We still up.
Yes.
We still got a chance for steal up.
Yeah.
Bo Nix stopped his Taysom Hill act, Jay. He's actually throwing the ball now. Really as an effective, somewhat effective fantasy quarterback, especially in 2 quarterback leagues.
He's made such strides, even since that New Orleans game on Thursday Night Football, which was an abomination. And even though they won that game going away, Bo Nix in that game, he looked horrific. It was comical, like meme throws that were lighting up Twitter. He was, I think we were texting about this, Connor, which you weren't a part of, Matthew, where he was just, he's leaning back in the pocket before the pressure even starts to come. I've never seen a quarterback. He's like running backwards before anyone's
like a video game,
Usually, like Patrick Mahomes steps up into the pocket to make his throws, but no, he played. I thought that he was going to get eviscerated by Spags' defense. He wasn't. He was fine. He's competent, and just the rushing value just gives him such a high floor.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I also think it's a nice matchup here against the Falcons. Over the last month, they've given up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins has been up and down, and so I certainly think going up against the Broncos defense, you could see maybe some short fields. Maybe there's a turnover or two where Bo Nix has gets the ball in the Falcons' territory right there. Since week 6, this is a crazy stat, but since week 6, Bo Nix is the 6th best quarterback in fantasy football.
Yeah, no, I believe
because of course he is.
The rushing is real. And look,
sport is a disgrace.
In that game, Denver Broncos 2.5-point favorites, home to the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think people would pick that before the season when the Broncos were expected to be a 6-win team and the Falcons were minus money to win the division, which they're still going to do, but that implies that the Broncos are slightly better than the Falcons on a neutral field, which is a testament to how good that Broncos defense is and the strides that Nix has taken.
And they believe in Audric Estime.
And they believe in
the markets are saying.
The markets don't underestimate Estime.
DraftKings correctly estimate Audric.
Yeah, there you go. I like that one.
Drake Maye makes our list for quarterbacks this week. He's 87% available against the Rams, which definitely helps him here. But Matthew, Drake May's been rock solid in all 4 of his games this season.
He's averaging over 17 fantasy points per game, and a good chunk of those, 36% of those points, come from his rushing, which is, just again, gives you a high floor. Even though you sit there and you look at the Patriots, kind of a low-scoring offense, it's not like high octane or anything like that. But Drake Maye, because of the production you get from his legs, and he's competent enough as a pass catcher, and you're getting some production out of Hunter Henry and DeMario Douglas. We've seen some moments from Jaylen Polk and Buyut, yeah, Keyshawn. Biote?
Booty?
Booty or Booty? Biote?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways you can go with that.
Yeah.
Sam Boutte?
Buete.
Anyway, whatever. Drake May's
Pete's in the control room just like, this is the worst show I've ever
defensive
produced.
midfield for the Ivory Coast, I think.
Sure, of course he does. Anyway, Drake Maye is a quarterback, and he's available in 78% of leagues. There you go.
And so is Jameis Winston, available in 92% of the leagues.
Sure.
Yep, he's got the Saints, Jay. And we know Jameis is going to drop back and just
revenge
throw the rock.
game. That's what everyone's going to talk about this week. Chiefs, Bills, whatever. This is the Jameis Winston revenge game. Hashtag revenge game.
The pregame speech is going to be epic.
What a game. Browns, Saints in Week 11. Yes, I think it's 9.
Are we flexing that to Sunday night? Does anyone know? Are we flexing
We already got Jets Colts out of Sunday night.
Thank God.
Thank goodness.
What's going on with the Saints defense? Is this because we came into the season thinking this was going to be a good defense? It was a top 5, top 7 defense last year. Started off fine, and then just became an absolute catastrophe. Where they gave up 51 points to Baker Mayfield. They let the Chiefs do whatever they wanted deep through the air. They let the Broncos run all over them. And then they shut down Kirk Cousins last week. So is this a good defense or not?
No, it's not. I mean, they've been banged up on the back end, and obviously they've also traded one of their marquee players on the back end. They've not really drafted very well up front for years now, and it's finally caught up to them. So I think they were well coached. I mean, let's not forget, Dennis Allen was their DC for a long time, so they had that going for them. But yeah, they got old, they missed on draft picks, and eventually the talent kind of dried up for them up front.
So favorable matchup for Jameis, just given how porous the past defense has been. Again, the full Jameis experience, which we are now all witness to, it's just going to depend on whether his ridiculous pass that he shouldn't let go, whether that goes right through the hands for a touchdown or whether it gets picked a couple of times. That's just how it goes.
The full Jameis is always fun.
All right, let's close out with the tight ends here.
Jameis.
Tight end Mike Gesicki, who really plays a form of wide receiver for the Bengals. He's got the Chargers, 55% available. Thank God this was the game, flexed into Sunday Night Football, which you can watch on NBC and Peacock. So, Matthew, this could be – the Bengals like playing shootouts. And when T. Higgins doesn't play, Gesicki is heavily involved in this pass game.
That's the point, right? In the 5 games that T. Higgins has missed this season, he's averaging 13.4 fantasy points per game. He's got a 19% target share. This is a bigger part of the offense. Now, again, we not know right now as of this taping whether or not T. Higgins is going to play on Sunday. Hopefully we get more clarity as the week goes on.
They called him day-to-day, and it was the fakest, it was very we don't know, day-to-day.
Exactly.
That's what it felt like to start the week.
But, Mike Gesicki, didn't show up in the box score in a big way, just 4 for 30, but he did earn 9 targets last week. He had a 75% route participation last week, which was a season high for Gesicki, or Gesicki.
Okay, you keep going with the bit.
I am going to. Because have you not learned anything? We've been doing a show together now for 2.5 years.
You love killing a bit.
I love killing a bit.
Yeah.
I love,
the Luigi costume was just, I still have nightmares.
Yeah, the comedy, the Mario, yeah, that was all, yeah. There's the comedy.
I think you were Luigi.
I'm sure.
They didn't have Mario when you got
They didn't
there.
have
Our Italian-American audience.
Hey, it's me, Luigi.
Yeah, there you go.
People in New Jersey don't watch the show anymore.
Anymore. I'm not sure they ever did. What are you going to do? What I was going to say, though, is that, you beat it's funny bit, beat it in the ground. Now it's not funny. Now it's really not funny. Keep beating into the ground. Oh, my God, it's so annoying. And you keep beating into the ground more, and then eventually it becomes funny again. I'm telling you,
We're still living
I was going to say.
yeah. It'll get
missed
there.
the easiest one. Don't people call him Jameis? Some people actually say Jameis
I
Winston.
hope not.
Probably.
I really hope not.
That's
Probably
really
not.
cool.
Anyway, Mike Gesicki
Yes.
is a tight end for the Bengals.
Yep.
All right, we're somehow selling you Hunter Henry stock again. It's about the ninth week in a row.
I feel like exactly. Every
It's
week
the
we
ninth
talk
week
about
in a
Hunter
row
Henry.
we've done this. He had 4 targets. He caught one of them last week, but you probably need a tight end if Dalton Kincaid can't play and you're down a couple of guys on bye week. So, Jay, we fire up the Hunter Henry machine once again.
Yeah, the seminal waiver wire tight end for 3 years running, actually.
Yeah,
Hunter Henry, he is the definitional touchdown-dependent tight end. A matchup that's fine against the Rams. We saw Jonnu Smith get some work last night against the Rams. Their beleaguered defense.
Even after whatever game from Jonnu Smith last night, the Rams still are bottom 10 in the NFL in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends. So not a bad matchup here again. And that offense does feature the tight end. Yes, quiet at the box score for Hunter Henry last week, but Austin Hooper had a nice game to the extent that anyone did. So, I mean, you've got Hooper in the mix as well.
I was going to let it go.
The box score? Is that somewhere you venture? Is that a physical location?
Like a day at the box office, day at the
Yeah, I can tell where you're going. Like, he didn't show up in the box score and mixed it with box office.
Yeah.
A quiet day at the box score.
Quiet day at the box. I kind of like that. You don't like that? No, I purposely did that.
Is that in Indiana or something?
I'm floating it out there. He had a quiet day in the box score, which he did.
At the box score, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's like going to the movies.
Go open up the box score. Do you see Hunter Henry doing anything loudly in that? No, he was quiet. That's my point.
Wearing a hoodie in the back seat.
Anyway.
It's Jonnu Smith time.
Yeah.
So. You got your Hunter Henry, update of the week. Jonnu Smith, 74% available. He's got the Raiders, which is really good news. Matthew, he looked good on the 3 catches he got last night. The problem is he just needed one more.
Needed one more. I took the over on 3.5 receptions. Did not cash for me. What are you going to do? Should have, honestly, because the Dolphins' offense just did not look good. Jonnu Smith was open many, many times. You see it there on your script. I mean, he was tied for 3rd on the team in targets. I mean, he got 4 targets. Only came down with 3 of the balls, though. For 45 yards. But Jonnu has a really nice matchup here. Last 4 weeks, the Raiders allowed the most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. So really nice matchup against Las Vegas. And since week 5, he's got a 21% target share. Jonnu Smith does.
Our final tight end, Dawson Knox, 99% available. It's Bills, it's Chiefs. Dalton Kincaid left the game Sunday with a knee injury. Jay, we don't know what his status is going to be for this game, but didn't look good for Dalton Kincaid.
No, I suspect there is a good chance that he may miss. And Dawson Knox has shown he has a rapport with Josh Allen. He can step up. He can soak up more usage and targets with Dalton Kincaid out. There's just not that many human beings in this passing game that are going to be ahead of Dawson Knox in the pecking order if Kincaid is out. So he will be a very viable lower-end tight end that you can start if Kincaid misses.
He's certainly got a good shot at a touchdown. He's going to be a touchdown-dependent tight end, but he's got a pretty good shot at a touchdown when you consider definitely no Keon Coleman here. We don't think Dalton Kincaid's going to play. We don't know if Amari Cooper is going to make it back. And if he does, is he going to be limited? So Dawson Knox in this matchup against Kansas City, where we expect a lot of scoring, a lot of throwing back and forth. The Chiefs allow actually the most yards per game to opposing tight ends in one of the few areas that you can actually attack the Chiefs as well. And it just feels like because the Bills have a bye next week, and given where they are record-wise, they want to be Kansas City, of course, but if they lose to Kansas City, they're still fine. They're still well in control of the division. Feels like this is probably a week you say to Dalton Kincaid, hey, you know what? We got the bye. Take this week off, then you get the bye, and we're going to be okay. We can get by with Dawson Knox.
If you're playing in a league with the defense for Week 11, here's a couple waiver targets like my idiot friends still do, and I absolutely hate it. The Texans have the Cowboys, which means they have Cooper Rush. That's what you want there. Packers have the Bears. They are going through an offensive coordinator change, and this just looked really bad for Chicago. And the Dolphins have the Raiders, who they don't really know what the hell is going on offense right now, as much as Miami's defense has been a little up and down. So 3 good options for you here. And, of course, if you need to add somebody today that we mentioned, you probably have to drop someone. So let's look at what about Jake Ferguson, Megan? That just breaks my heart seeing him on the drops list.
Yeah, that with Dak being officially out for the season, it's just you can't feel great about Jake Ferguson.
Rock solid.
He was my tight end in a guillotine league that I lost last night. Very upsetting. Xavier Worthy, listen, if my friend Ian Harditz over at Fantasy Life says this, and he's correct, him and Pete Overs have both made this point that if the field was a foot wider, Xavier Worthy would be the greatest wide receiver in the NFL.
Have a great CFL career.
Yeah, he's going to have but just for whatever reason, he can't get 2 feet in bounds. Deontay Johnson, I wouldn't mind hanging on to Deontay Johnson. I wouldn't drop him unless you had to. There's still hope that he gets more assimilated into the Ravens' passing offense, but so far, through 2 games, it just hasn't been. Williams and Stafford, we both talked about the kind of, just don't feel great about starting them. Bigsby got hurt. Feels like Etienne's back, and that offense is a mess. Same with Cole Kmet and what we talked about with the Bears and Caleb Williams as well. Devin Singletary's the backup to a running back on a bad team. He's really just an insurance back to Tyrone Tracy, but wasn't that effective. And again, with the addition of Amari Cooper, it doesn't feel like Keon Coleman's going to see a consistent role in this Bills offense.
Right, and banged up as well. So
correct.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we're back, our Monday Night Football recap and our League of Assholes update right after this. This is going to be an all-timer. Buckle up.
I was very disappointed because in our NBC Guillotine League, it's down to the final 5, and it was me and Rotopat, and he had Gibbs and I had Montgomery, and so barring a Monday Night Miracle, I will be saying goodbye tonight. I'm on the way out.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm done, and I'm 5 points up, but the person behind me I think has Tyreek Hill tonight. So.
And Kyron Williams, is that right?
No. That's the League of Assholes where Stupid Dev has Kyron and Tyreek. Yeah.
Good night for you, Matthew.
Oh God, so brutal. So that's my team, my now dead team, Fins Up Forever. As you can see there, my 102.54, just less than DJ Short, and his 102.58. And I was leading the whole time. So Kyron Williams. And it's so unbelievably stupid. So get this. So I'm in the League of Assholes. And you know what? I had a bunch of different scenarios last night. And I just, what I decided? I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to look at anything like this. I watched the game with my wife and my oldest son. The 3 of us watched the game. I hadn't seen them because we'd been in Houston for the weekend. So I was just spending time. I'm like, whatever. And at the end of the game, I'm just going to check and see what is. But then, of course, because it's a League of Assholes, the backup producer Pete sends a text being like, "Oh, look at what's going on, Matthew. You're barely hanging on to, And I have a lead over Stupid Dev, and so now I'm like, oh, and Dev puts in the group chat. Shout out to Dev for manifesting this happening. He goes, and we're down to the final drive, and I'm up by I think 1.5 points on Dev at this point, and Dev's like, I just need a dumb check down to Kyron Williams for 3 yards. And literally 2 plays later, he gets it.
It's almost instantaneous.
And so you see it right there. He gets it, and he beats me 102.32 to 101.48. And look at my team. Look at Jalen McMillan, 0 fantasy points from Jalen McMillan, 0 fantasy points from Parker Washington as well, because I had JSN, Ken Walker, David Njoku all on bye, Mike Evans out with the injury. There's just no one. Literally, could I get 2 points from Parker Washington or Jalen McMillan combined, and I beat Stupid Dev? But no. So it's great. So now, because my phone went off, I'm looking at it, and I'm now seeing this, and now I'm engaged. And, of course, now Kyron Williams catches that. So great. Boom. I've lost the League of Assholes. Whatever. Now, but I'm still alive in the Guillotine League. I'm still alive in our Guillotine League. And the Rams are and I'm holding on by once again, like a point and a half over DJ Short.
Yep.
I'm done. He has Kyren Williams. And, the Rams are down 10 with less than a minute to go. They have one timeout. And so I'm like, I should be actually okay because they're throwing back. They're using Kyren Williams in pass pro. Like, they need to score quickly and then do an onside kick and do it again. And so they get down there with about 45 seconds, and what they should do is, it was third down, and they should spike it and bring in the field goal unit to kick the field goal, save a little bit more time, but no, they hand off to Kyren Williams, again, when they have one timeout and they need 2 scores under a minute to go. Kyren Williams gets 2 yards, and of course, then the Rams kick the field goal, and they lose they don't get the onside, and they lose the game. But those 2 stupid yards on a play that never should have happened by any rational coaching should never have happened. And so I lose by 0.04 points in the Guillotine League. And here's what really sucks. Because in another Guillotine League that doesn't involve any of you animals, I am, same thing where I had Jaden Daniels, who had obviously a very tough game. And I had Kincaid, and he left with the injury and everything like that. And so I had Kyren Williams in that game. And so I needed basically Kyren Williams to get about 5 more points in that league to survive. So Kyren Williams did just enough to knock me out of Guillotine League NBC, where I was down to the Final 5, and our League of Assholes, but not enough to save me in the other league. So just Kyren Williams effed me up the chuckle hole 3 different ways. 3 different ways. Just right up the chuckle hole is what he did to me.
Chuckle hole diversity.
Yes. It's unbelievable. Both sides of the hole. I got chuckled.
It was pretty bad.
You understand?
Wow. I'm glad you got that out of your system.
It was awful.
Now, to be fair,
and by the way, in my Commanders loss as well, the whole thing sucks. But what's great is that I have my friends, my friends, my colleagues, my coworkers who have been doing nothing but blowing up my phone, making fun of me on the group chat.
Your Jared Goff bet hit.
Yeah.
That was a good win.
Jared Goff
to be fair, and I missed the second half of what you were saying because I zoned out, but when we brought up the screen of the League of Arseholes, half the players you were starting were terrible, okay? So you deserve to lose. If you'd have to start Jalen McMillan and Parker Washington and Bucky Irving and all these guys, that's on you. The team has to lose.
I had 4 guys on a bye.
Yeah,
Mike Evans is hurt. Rasheed Rice is out for the season. I've had I've had just like a lot of people, I've bad injury luck and then bad. It was tough buys, but whatever. I put it together. But there you go. Here are the standings here. By the way,
who's at the top?
Who is at the top? You are at the top. Slap them like a great slapper. But do me a favor. Do me a favor. Right. So how many you have points for?
Yeah.
1,523.20. It's great, Jay. You have a very good team, very strong team. I want you to look down. Who's got the second most points in the league?
Live at Pacific time, noon on the cock. Matthew
Yes. Live at noon on the cock. So I'm sitting there at 5. I have the second most points in the league. I've had all these injuries. I'm putting it together with smoke and mirrors. But you know what? I still have the second most points in the league. But look at points against right there.
Yeah. Also, me, number 1 for points against, still top of the table. So let's hear the excuses.
You have a great team.
Thank you,
Jay. But look at Connor. I would have loved to have had only 1,267 points against.
Yep. But I did beat you by about 40,000 points. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Fourth place is feeling good.
You had one good week this entire season. It happened to be against me. So anyway, whatever. Life sucks. It is what it is. And eventually, whatever. One of these days, something good is going to happen to me in the world of fantasy football. I believe in it.
It's coming.
I'm sticking, hanging tough.
Well, while we wait for that, we got our Monday Night Football fantasy takeaways. Let's do a little rapid fire, true or false. Jay, we'll start here. Tyreek Hill is still a must start. Good call on under 75.5 receiving yards. He didn't even come close.
No, he ended up with 16 yards. Must start. I still think most weeks you have to probably still start Tyreek Hill, but now he is like a wide receiver 3 flex guy at the moment.
Yeah, he finishes the week at wide receiver 26, and that's probably about right. The touchdown bails you out, but with his first touchdown since week number 1, part of the issue is 14% target share. He's not getting volume, and for whatever reason, they're not taking deep shots to him. His average depth of target is 4.5 last night. How do you turn Tyreek Hill into a dink and dunk guy?
Well, you look at some of the sacks that Tua was taking.
I mean,
they don't want these extended drops.
Maybe that's it. and it's weird, like the Malik Washington rushing touchdown, normally that would have been a Tyreek Hill type play.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of strange things on offense. In a 10-team league, is Jaylen Waddle droppable?
Yes.
Jay? Yep.
I don't know that I'm doing it on purpose, but you know what I mean? Like, if he's on my waiver wire, I'm not like suddenly rushing to try to go get him.
Jay, are you dropping Raheem Mostert for Jaylen Wright?
I think so with the upside. I mean, that's close. I just don't feel great about either of those guys. It's Achane's backfield by margin.
I had Mostert's rushing prop. This was his first career game where he played more than one offensive snap and didn't have a carry. He's been in the league since 2015.
I literally needed 8 points in a different guillotine league from Raheem Mostert and couldn't get there. I'm like, he's going to get 8 points.
Bizarre usage.
That's a deeper one, and yeah, I mean, like,
Last one was Matthew Stafford's droppable. Like, you don't need Matthew.
It's not pretty.
Fourth game this year with under 10 fantasy points. He has 9 touchdown passes this season. 4 of them came in one game. He's had 1 or fewer in 7 or 9 games. I agree with you. Stafford is merely a schedule-dependent streamer.
We're taking our last break. When we're back to the futures. Looking at our favorite awards, bets, and more right after this. DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The crown is yours!
Yours!
It's yours! There can be no question about who the crown is for, because it's yours!
Back to the futures. What do you got for us, Jay?
Fred Warner, Defensive Player of the Year, is plus 3,500. He has 2 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, a sack as well. I think that he should be the second favorite in the award behind TJ Watt.
He's quite good.
I'm taking the Lions at plus 190 to win the conference. Like, they're going to be the #1 seed. The road is through through Detroit. They play Jacksonville this week. They're team of destiny stuff. Yeah. When they don't lose on the road with 5 interceptions, team of destiny stuff with the Lions.
I like it.
I'm going with the digging deep here, guys. Going with the Browns over 4.5 wins. It's minus 105. They just need to win 3 of their next 8 games. When AFC North teams play each other, it feels like a coin flip all the time. Their schedule is mostly a lot of AFC North matchups. They already beat the Ravens, by the way, who are pretty damn good.
I think
Jameis finds 3 wins out of these 8.
Yeah. Wow, Browns at Broncos.
They'll play the Broncos tough. And maybe the Ravens don't have much to play for the final week of the season.
Yeah, and then you see Browns, Dolphins in Week 17. I feel like that's going to get flexed out. I don't think you're going to see that.
Chance.
Hey, it's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You're like me in a guillotine league. Hey, for Jay and Connor, I'm Matthew. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck on waivers tonight. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.